As per his request, let's start with Sheridan.
Yeah, thank you. Smattering of applause. I love smattering of applause. Well, good evening. How are you guys doing tonight?
Excellent.
Good. Okay, so keeping with what Beth said, I have prizes. There's no cost, no purchase necessary. This is not a random drawing. There will be a quiz at the end, and maybe you'll win one of the 3 prizes. And if you want one and you don't win, then talk to me sweetly, and I might get you one anyway. So, my talk's going to be a little bit different. I've used social media since I can remember. Here's how I remember getting into social media. I hated texting. I thought texting was stupid. I'm 41 years old. I'm like, who texts? I'm going to pick up the phone and call. Well, that was because I didn't have a phone with a QWERTY keyboard. As soon as I got a phone that had a keyboard where I could text like a typewriter, I never talked to anybody on the phone again. I didn't need it. I thought, well, this is great. And then once my mom and my grandmother started texting, my life was complete. Now, so that got me interacting with people on a different level, and that's what I really feel about how I feel about social media. Is it's still interacting with people, but you have to understand that the tool, the channel, the techniques are going to be different. And that's why I started embracing it. I don't know why I was so adamant about talking on the phone. Now when I think about it, it really does annoy me. I mean, if you've been on, and my mom still calls me every now and then, and what we do is we schedule time together. It's kind of like scheduled tweets. These are scheduled phone conversations with mom back in California. But it allows us to interact, and I know that when it's scheduled, it's going to be quality time. I can turn off all the other distractions, and I can focus on my conversation with my mom. And I feel the same way about social media. Sometimes, if I'm just trying to be in it, it's distracting. But if I find time to actually engage and participate, then I can shut everything else off and engage. And that's why I'm talking tonight about using social media to develop relationships. I don't care what the channel is. I don't care if it's face-to-face over coffee. I don't care if it's over a beer at Venture Cafe. I don't care if it's here in this interaction. My goal whenever I interact with somebody is to develop relationships. And social media is just one of those tools to do that. And so tonight I'm going to talk about my story about how I've used, both professionally and personally, social media to develop relationships, and how I believe other people can use it, even if you want to use it for marketing, even if the relationships you want to create are customer relationships, which are fine. Just treat them like relationships. Now, I will also echo what Beth said. I will not say social media is social, so that's why it's good. I don't care about that. What we care about is, do you value relationships? So let me tell you about this one scenario. This is not a real request. It would be very creepy if I went to a senior prom now. I'd probably get arrested. But I'm going to tell you about my senior prom, because it was horrible, and it was all my fault. This is what I was up against. This is my school. These are all the women, females, girls at that time that went to school with me. And I didn't have a prom date. Now, I could manage that. It was 2 weeks before prom. And I thought I was this cool guy that thought, yeah, I don't need to go to prom. Nobody goes to prom. But if your senior prom and 2 weeks before and you realize you're never going to have a prom again, suddenly it becomes very important to find a prom date. So I had to find a prom date. We're going to wipe this out. This represents all the girls available for me to ask to go to prom. So we're going to wipe them all out, and we're going to start with what's realistic. Because not all of them were going to be able to go to prom with me. First, we had to deal with those that knew I existed. See, there could be a whole class of people, a whole school of people, a whole school of women. But not everybody knows I exist. And we call this awareness, right? First, I had to figure out which females on my high school campus even knew that Travis Sheridan existed. Now, we looked at the first batch of numbers, and you could see that about 25% of the entire school female population might have known I existed. That's a much different number when you're thinking about how you want to interact with people. And we're going to use this prom analogy because I think it's very real when we're talking about how we want to reach out to people in social media. So first you have to ask yourself, I just want people to know I exist. So that's one tool of social media. How do you use it to let people know that you exist? But knowing you exist just isn't enough, ladies and gentlemen. They have to actually like you. So there were a collection of women that knew I existed, but the number was a little, not 100% of the women that knew I existed actually liked me. That is okay. If everybody liked me, I wasn't trying hard enough. But we think about this, so we call this preference. The P in this case stands for preference. So awareness, they know you. The preference, they like you. So when you're looking at social media, when you're looking at developing these relationships, you have to not only get people to know you exist, you have to do things through social media and through these interactions where they actually think fondly of you. Guess what? Thinking fondly of you is not a prom date, by the way, because then they have to agree to go to the prom with you. They have to engage. They have to participate. Now, a number of these women, I'm not saying this big drop-off was because they liked me but they had no interest in me. Maybe they liked me but they had a boyfriend. Right. Maybe they liked me but this is 2 weeks before prom. They already have dates, right? So there are a lot of women that said, oh, Travis, wow, if I would have known you were available, I would have gone with you. Never heard that. But I like to pretend that was the case. But in social media, we want to step this relationship one step, move it closer by looking at ways that people can actually engage. So of all the women, if we take these as all the women, now we have 2, 4, 6, 8. Of all the women in my high school, now we've narrowed it down to 8 females who actually would be willing to go to the prom with me. Which is pretty good odds. Happy about that. So I go to the prom. Everybody that goes to the prom with me, or the person that goes to the prom with you, or everybody that interacts with your brand, the R stands for referral and retention. Referral and retention. So let's put it this way. Half of the women that I went to prom with, if I use this analogy, would not tell their friends to go to prom with me, or they would not go to prom with me again. Right? I have lost half of that number. Of the 8 that existed, now only half actually still think fondly of me and would do it again or refer me to somebody else. So awareness, do they know you exist? Preference, do they like you? What can you do through social media to increase the affinity they have with the positive feelings? Engagement, are they willing to participate, hang out, engage, subscribe, whatever it might be, buy? And then the R, which I think a lot of people ignore, it's the loyalty piece. Will they stick around and will they tell others about you? Now, had I had this much brilliance back when I was in high school, my prom would have turned out a lot different. But the fact of the matter is, no matter how many tools I have, the common denominator then and now was still me, and I was a punk kid. So the whole reason the prom was horrible was my fault. I don't blame Marcy at all. She was great. But when a lot of people are thinking about, this is me as a kid, I did not have much time, I did not have much money, I did not have much talent. And when people are looking at trying to use social media to develop relationships, many of you are working for organizations, or you have a startup, or you work in a company where you don't have a lot of budget, you don't have a lot of time, and you don't have much talent. Not saying that you're not talented, but you don't have a team of people there tweeting, Facebooking, following, and doing all this stuff, right? We are limited by our resources. I was a poor kid. I had to work a lot, so that means I didn't have time to foster relationships. The money that I had to spend on, just survival kind of, so didn't have extra money, and didn't really have that much talent. Thought I did, but I didn't have much talent. So I like using this analogy and these 3 resources when we're looking at developing relationships. Because every relationship when we interact with people, they like us because of the talent or something we contribute to the environment. They like the fact that we can actually engage them and spend time with them and show them value. And if they're only in it for the money, that's not the right thing. But if you have some resources to make the relationship fun, that goes a long way. Now, we'll talk about this again. Will you go to the prom with me? And here's how we break this all down. First, on the awareness side, I want to give you some tools as it relates to awareness and what you can do and what awareness sounds like and what awareness looks like. Very simply, awareness is they know us. They know we exist. They have heard your name and they recall that it sounds familiar. That is it. And so the response, or the way that you can test if they are aware of you, is that simple quote, yeah, I've heard of them. Now that is going a long, long way. When I talk to people that have startups would die for people to say, oh yeah, I've heard of them. Like that's big. Because they have no marketing budget, right? They're like, oh yeah. So like Locker Dome is one of the startups here in town. Very successful, very positive, doing a lot of great things in the community. They have done a lot, and there are people outside of the community when I say St. Louis and Locker Dome, they're like, oh yeah, Locker Dome, I've heard of it. To increase awareness, you just want more people to know you. You want that pool of high school prom dates to grow just by saying, Travis? Oh, I've heard of Travis. Because then I can take care of the rest. Maybe. Preference. Do they like us? Do they think fondly of us? Have they gone into Facebook and would they be willing to like us? In quotes. And here's some quotes that I use for this. What you could think about when to test if they really have. Yeah, I've heard they do good stuff. It's different than, yeah, I've heard of them. It's, yeah, I've heard they do good stuff. Or, yeah, I totally volunteer if I had time, meaning they're not volunteering, there's no engagement. Or, yeah, they're cool. The reason I'm sharing these very simple quotes with you, or these examples, is there are things that you can do in social media to interact and try to elicit that response from people. Where they're like, yeah, all right, cool. If I had time, hey, I saw that you posted for volunteers. If I had time, I'd totally be into that. No, I can deepen that relationship. Engagement. Join us, hang out with us, visit us, donate, buy, download, subscribe. Some way that behaviorally they're saying, yes, I like you. I'm willing to go look at prom dresses with you. Let's go. I'm willing to talk about colors for corsages. All right, that's a step in the right direction. And when we want to try to engage people, this is the part where everybody jumps to, by the way. Every single people, not everybody, a lot of people, I generalize a lot. I generalize all the time. Several people jump to engagement. They jump to, will you go to the prom with me? They just jump to the hard sell. And that's very dissatisfying. Remember, I'm talking about developing relationships here. You don't want to develop relationships and ask the person to the prom right away. When I remember when I went out with my wife for the first time, I swear I knew I was going to marry her. But I didn't say that to her. I didn't ask her. I didn't say, hey, I just happen to have a ring that fits you. Right? Because that would be really weird and creepy. She's the type of person that might have played along with it. But for the most part, you don't want to do that. But so many people jump to engagement because that's what they feel they naturally are driven to. They want to get to the, how do we connect to them and solidify this relationship. But we need to slow down. We have to back it all the way out and go through those other steps first. And then, like I mentioned, a lot of people don't focus on this last piece, which is the referral and the retention. Will that prom date, will Marcy tell her friends, you know what, I went out with Travis? There's not a lot of chemistry, but you should go out with Travis. I think he'd be good for you, right? Or Marcy said, you know what, hey, if we were college freshmen and we were going to college together, I'd go to a prom with you again. Great, that's great. Marcy's referring me or willing to stick around. To stay with us, come back to us. That's not out of desperation, by the way. Not to come back to me this way. Tell others, retweet and share. These are all things that you can do to try to get people to refer and retain. And the way that they're doing it, the language they'll use, yeah, I keep going back, or yeah, I think you'd like what they stand for. You should totally volunteer with that organization, or you should totally buy that type of car. Or yeah, you should contact them. Now there's things that I really like to do when it comes to retention and referrals, and the very simple trick, it's 2 words, thank you. The more that you thank the people that you interact with, again, if we're thinking about relationships, I love to make dinner. My wife and I have this routine where I cook and she does the dishes, and I think that is really cool because she thanks me for dinner and then I thank her for doing the dishes. Yes?
What's your thought about asking for a retweet? There are 2 schools of thought. Like, should you say, please retweet, please like us, or you shouldn't ask for it? Like, what do you think?
So I think on the engagement side, I think if you're doing some engagement messaging, right, you could say, hey, you know, please hop over to Facebook and like us on Facebook, right? I think it's okay to do that from time to time, but you don't want to do that all too often. And I think if you feel like something is truly worthy of being retweeted, like if you want to pull that card out and use it, then ask for it to be retweeted. But know that I always lean on the content will speak for itself. If it's worth being retweeted, it'll be retweeted. Now, I could go back and say, hey, the content should speak for itself. If I could have found a prom date, women should have lined up and asked me out. But I had to take the extra step. So there are times that I think if you truly believe the content is worth retweeting and you use it once every quarter or every month or something like that, and you're like, you know what, I don't know. And if you can even play it down, like have some fun with it. I was telling Kevin beforehand, sometimes when it comes to social media or branding, people take themselves too seriously. So have some fun with it going, all right, this one I'm so proud of, please retweet it. But if you read it and you don't like it, you know, you can have some fun and like dialogue with people. But I try not to ask for a retweet. Every now and then I've been known to do it. So here's what I did, because I had not a lot of time, not a lot of money, and not a lot of talent. And I specifically didn't have a lot of talent because when I came up with this idea, I was managing a nonprofit, marketing and communications for a nonprofit organization. And I was the only marketing guy. And then I finally got 6 interns. And I thought, that's cool, I have 6 interns. What do I do? What do they do? I need to develop relationships. I need them to also develop relationships. But I don't trust them. We're nuts. Amen. And not that they're not trustworthy, I just don't know. I don't know enough about them, they don't know enough about me, they just landed here. So I wanted to create a way for us to all be successful, and I wanted to create a tool. The other thing has to do with time. I have been known to get lost in social media sometimes. It could be a Monday night when there's a good chat going on and I just want to jump in and catch one hashtag and next thing you know I'm like deep in it. Or it could be middle of the day when I think I could convince somebody to change their mind through ongoing dialogue on Twitter or Facebook comments, right? You're just kind of going back and forth. So what I ended up doing is I said, you know what, if I do nothing else, if I stripped everything away, what if I just had a different focus every day, 4 days a week? On Mondays, I want to increase awareness. So all the messaging I'm going to do is going to be awareness related. And maybe I only have one message, so I'm going to focus just one message on awareness. On Tuesdays, I'm going to talk about preference. On Wednesdays, it's engagement, and on Thursdays, it's referral and retention. And what I was able to do with this is I was able to create a tool so that my interns could do the same thing. I could essentially say, here's the calendar, have at it. Say what you want based on these rules and this structure. And so I'm going to walk through this today. So Monday, awareness, Tuesday, preference, Wednesday, engagement, Thursday, referral and retention. And you can mix these around based on your model, but this is what worked for us. And then Fridays, we use that as kind of a catch-up day or a wild card day or what the hell did we miss because we were not focusing on it like we should type of day. The next thing we did, because we knew what we were going to do every day of the week, we broke the month into individual weeks. And we said, all right, what is going to be our focus this week? So our focus could be on week 1, we're going to talk about our cool programs that we have. And so on week 1 of this month, we're going to talk about our cool programs. On week 2, we're going to focus this whole week on customer appreciation. Week 3, our focus is going to be on staff development. And we're going to talk about how this is a preferred workplace and that type of thing. We just created a theme for every single week, a message for each week. 4th might be the annual event, and 5th, if there is one, a day in the life. Where I got this idea from is I was working with a school administrator, a guy who was a superintendent for a school district, and he sent out, this is very old school, he would call up all of his principals on a Monday on a conference call and have them take out 3 index cards. And he's like, here are the 3 points for the week. So that if the principals got called by the media or anything like this, they were all on the same page. So they said, okay, here's message 1 for the week, message 2 for the week, message 3 for a week. That's old school, right? And it's like, so they knew, if the media called, they would just rotate through these. And so I said, it's good to have a message, because if you have that focus and that message, then you can let other people communicate it. So we talked about what to do on a daily basis, and that ties into the week. And then I said, you know what, but we need to have themes for each quarter as well. So as a nonprofit, which I was running, and I still do this today, awareness is what we spend the first quarter of the year talking about, right? This is when we release our annual report. This is kind of the did you know, right? This is what we're focusing on. The second quarter of the month, we're focusing on the preference. These are this is why you should like us. This is the impact we might have. The third quarter of the month, it's engagement. If you think about what happens in nonprofits, you're gearing up for fourth quarter donations. So third quarter is engagement. We run our gala, we do our fundraising, we make sure that we're getting people on board. And then the fourth, referral and retention. Thank you for contributing last year, please contribute again this year. Or you're gonna buy a table, thank you for buying a table for our party, now let's have more people do this. Now I wanna put all 3 of these pieces together, the days, the weeks, and the months. And what I came up with is what I call 1 year, 1 page. This is a feat of engineering that I will never be replicated because I'm not that smart. I was just lucky that I did it the right first time. So what this represents is time, money, and talent. Simple way to compose a message with limited resources and limited critical thinking. It does not require an outside consultant to do anything for you. So sorry, marketing consultants who get paid to do this. I'm actually going to make your life a whole lot easier. And the talent, it empowers all levels to spread the message. What's represented on this grid is every single day of the year. If we pick a day, we can triangulate and create what that message is supposed to be. Now, when I've talked out, this is what Alex tries to do, what Alex works on helping people create content. You know, what we need to develop good relationships is to know what to say along the way. Like if I wanted to get a prom date, or if I want to continue to woo my wife, I need to be on message all the time. Now, it's not being calculated and cold, it's being strategic, and using limited resources to be strategic. So this would be an example. If the day happened to be Monday, June 2nd, 2014, well, Monday is an awareness. Our message, this is a different slide, but the message says our focus is major events, and June is a preference month. That's what we're focusing on for that month as an overarching thing. So the message I would use, this is an example of a tweet, would be, we're happy to announce, that's awareness, right? It's kind of like, did you know? we're happy to announce Famous Fella, at Famous Fella, will be the keynote speaker at our Social Good Conference on June 22nd. Now let me dissect this for you. We're happy to announce in June 22nd are both awareness. Did you know? And this date, both facts. Famous Fella is somebody that's of prestige that you've got to come here, which means people are like, wow, they got that guy? That's pretty cool. And then our, meaning it's not just any social good conference, we're the ones responsible for this. And then the social good conference is the hashtag which ties into the major event, right? It's a day and you just compose a message. And giving this to an intern is pretty easy, where it's like, here's the day, here's what we're focusing on, say what you want to say. Another date, October 22nd, 2014. Now we're in an engagement day of the week. Our focus is sponsor recognition because it's the 4th week of the month, and it's October, so we're in referral and retention. Hecka nice sponsor helped us achieve our mission. Grab tickets and join the celebration at 2014 Gala, hashtag thanks, and a link to the tickets. Hecka nice sponsor helped us achieve, right? There's our message, thanking the sponsor, sponsor recognition. Our mission and thanks, which is the referral and retention, grab a ticket and join, which is the engagement, a very clear call to action. And then the last one that we have here, Tuesday, March 17th, 2015, so this is yesterday. I made this, this is random, I just picked a random day, it's funny. I'm good. So we're on preference, it's client program and an awareness message. So this workshop, that's the program, helped me avoid costly errors. So it's a quote from a participant, right? That quote from the participant and tagging that participant is going to get them to retweet it possibly, but it's not your words, it's somebody else's, which positions you from a point of preference. The entire schedule is online. That's just awareness, right? Did you know you can find more things here? Now, these are just some tweets, but you can do this in a few different ways. So on your daily thing, if you're focusing on daily, you can do tweets, Facebook updates, or you can do an Instagram, right? You take pictures and show off some things. For your message, here's what I usually recommend for a message. It's good to be, if you know what your focus is going to be, have some sliders that you can switch out on your homepage, and put a new slider up that's consistent with that message. Or write a blog post. Use this to, as a Monday blog post and make sure that it's going to be what your content, you can keep driving that content back. When you write that blog post on Monday, you can say, hey, we just wrote this blog post. That has a lot of good facts. Okay, great, did you know? Second day, it's like, hey, somebody, you can talk about that blog post in a preference side of things. But on a weekly basis, you do these like simple change to your homepage, which I just mean change the slider, or put new messaging up there, or write a blog post. And then on a quarterly basis, to really tie into those quarterly themes, this could be part of your email campaign. So in your email campaign for that quarter, you could be focusing on awareness, preference, engagement, referral and retention. Maybe if you have a budget, that represents a television. It's like an old school television. But maybe you do some media or some public relations around that that ties into that campaign. Or the last piece, which I really like, maybe you have a cocktail party, right? Or some sort of gala or some sort of social event, but tying into whatever your theme is for that quarter. Because again, these are very human ways to interact and develop relationships. I am a huge fan of email marketing. I don't know why people think it's going away. That is my bread and butter for Venture Cafe. We have essentially zero marketing budget and a list of 2,600 people and about a 55% open rate. And I love it. And it breaks my heart when somebody unsubscribes. I'm okay with it. I mean, I get it, right? But it still breaks my heart. But you know why it breaks my heart? Because I feel like that's a relationship. And I cherish that. When they unsubscribe, I feel like they don't want to go to the prom with me anymore. So, limited money, limited time.
They probably just got
I know. I understand that. It's not me, it's them. Like Beth said, it's not about me. It's their issue. So this is how you can develop relationships with limited time, limited money, and limited talent. I'm going to give you a very quick case study of where I first implemented this back at the Central Valley Business Incubator. Our Facebook engagement and our Facebook followers went up 70%. Twitter followers went up 19% for that year. Or overall social media went up that much. Our web traffic went up 100%, and that was 32% in the last period of the time. Our email list went up 120%. Our cocktail parties are really the engagement, the people coming out to our events, went up 100%, and we had 40% growth. And then that number of zero doesn't represent $0. We had zero loss. We actually retained 100% of our funders from the previous year. We didn't gain any new funders, but this was back in the midst of a recession, and I was happy to break even that year. But we did that by focusing on the fact that not everybody knew us. We had to make sure that they knew us. That if they knew us, we had to develop a way for them to like us. And if they liked us, we had to really maximize that. I always tell people, preference don't pay the bills. If somebody says, oh my gosh, you're really awesome, like I give you a high five, and I walk away. Because when I used to be a sales manager, I would see my salespeople just get so terrified of interacting on sales that all they wanted was the person to like them. And then when they liked them, they wouldn't close the sale. I'm like, dude, you let them leave. They're like, yeah, but I didn't want them to not like me by asking them to close the business. No, you need to close. Like, this is what you have to do. So you have to have some level of engagement and then the referral and retention. So here's what I'm going to do. So that grid, this grid piece right here, let's go right back here. You know, that grid. That whole grid is available online. You can go to messageplacemat.com and download it for free. But I also did this. So I'm not a coder, but so I can't say there's an app for that, but this is a placemat, so there's a lap for that. So what this is the whole placemat. And this is what I put together for my interns. I gave them a placemat and a dry erase marker. And I said, here's the messaging for the day, have at it. And they would write the messaging, and they would compose their tweet or their update, and they would check it off with an audit. Am I on the tone? Is it the right time? And that's it. Now, there are things you can subscribe to online. Buffer helps you, catalog some things or set some things aside. But I've yet to find anything that lets you do things on a timely basis. Like to just say, oh, here's what I should be talking about today. There are ways to figure out what you should be talking about by using, trending hashtags and that type of thing. But I always feel like that's you reacting to what else is going on in the market instead of telling your story. That's like me as a high school senior just trying to find out what I should wear so that somebody would like me to, I'm wearing the right thing so they would go to the prom with me, instead of finding the person that really wants to go to the prom with Travis. So, well, when Beth said don't worry about what your competition is doing, I actually agree with that too. It's your message, it's your relationship. I don't know why all the other guys got prom dates before I did. I don't care, I just know I didn't have one, and I wanted one. And this was the only way that I was going to have one, is to start developing some relationships. So, let's see, how am I going to give these out? I usually hide business cards, but I didn't get here in time to hide business cards. Yes?
We have business cards, so if you...
Oh, wonderful! Any sort of protocol in Okay. So just give me 3 business cards, and those will be the people that get placemats and a dry erase pen, because I'm that kind of guy.
All right, don't close.
And I need one more. All right. Victoria, where's Victoria? All right, Victoria, here you go. There is, there you go. You give her a pen too. Make sure I give out these pens.
Fancy.
Yeah. Alex, here you go, sir. There is yours. And then Kevin, running the board back, running the camera back there. I'll leave this up here for you. So we're running out of time. I want to be sensitive to everybody's time. It's 7:55. I want to leave a few minutes for questions and answers. But any thoughts or questions that you have on using a structured approach, and a very low-tech approach, actually, to developing relationships?
Just before you go, could you talk a little about Venture Cafe?
Sure.
I was already bragging on it, so anyway.
Actually, you could probably do it better than I can, because she's one of our greatest advocates. So the nonprofit I run now is called Venture Cafe. It's over in the Cortex District. We meet every Thursday between 3 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Ramona is one of our trusty volunteers who's usually there to greet you with a smile and a hug. So between 3 o'clock and 8 o'clock, and here's what happens. There's workshops going on, so there's breakout sessions, maybe a large panel discussion. There's a great discussion tomorrow night on the intersection between art and entrepreneurship, which is really cool. We have some people, I think, from Circus Flora coming out, or Circus Harmony, and a few other folks. And there's some investors that there's one-on-one conversations. There's about 12 things on the agenda. And then there's also just networking. As Alex pointed out, there is free beer and wine that helps lubricate the creativity. We limit you to 3 drinks, maximum, not minimum. And we are now averaging about 425 people a week that come out to this. And what I love about it, if we think about the developing the relationships and the awareness, each week about 40% of that number are first-timers. Right, so I remember I heard Allie here when you were asking, Alex asked Allie, hey, have you gone to Venture Cafe? She's like, no, but I've heard a lot about it, and I really want to go. Awareness and preference, right? So we're getting closer. She hasn't been, so we're not going to the prom yet, but maybe she'll go to the prom with me at Venture Cafe. So that's Venture Cafe. It's a nonprofit. We don't charge people to be there. We don't charge our presenters to present. So it's not a pay for play. It's not somebody can write me a big check and all of a sudden we're going to say that you have an awesome program. We curate all the programming to make sure that it is awesome and that people aren't selling to you. So thank you for asking me to give that plug. Any other?
Who gives you funding for that?
Who do we get our funding from? Corporate sponsorships as well as some grants that we receive. So, and then we're the sister organization of the Cambridge Innovation Center who runs the space, CIC. And so they handle all of our back office for us. So a lot of our overhead in our back office is handled as through in-kind support from them.
Are you thinking about maybe possibly monetizing this event?
No, it's not. We will find other ways to make money. The moment we monetize it, first of all, I have to get a liquor license. Because the moment I start charging people to come in and I serve alcohol, it's a whole set of issues that I don't want to deal with. And secondly, I don't need to. At one point in my life, I wanted to be a pastor or a preacher, and then I kind of fell out of favor with church, or church fell out of favor with me. And this is, to me, the closest thing that I've come to realizing that dream. Not that I am leading a flock or anything like that, but what I found is I've always wanted to be part of a community. And that's what Venture Cafe is to me. It's just really this community of people that come together. People helping each other achieve great things, and it's just a good vibe. So, I mean, you could ask other people that are there, because I'm 100% biased.
Well, I would just say, when I go, I feel hope for St. Louis.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
When you're not there, you can forget that, but when you're there, it's like, this is the future of St. Louis.
Well, yeah, Matt, you had a question?
So, because I manage 9 different social media channels,
Yeah.
and I have a list every month. I say I have to at least mention these promotions, there's a little bit of recognition in there, there's this, there's that, the other. I love process, and so typically what I do is I sit down with a calendar, and I put those things on the calendar kind of intervaled out. How would you integrate that in with this? Would you write what
So, I mean,
doing, or and just
this is best if you're using like if you're managing one, but you can replicate this model. I mean, you can have multiple placemats, if you will, or multiple grids. The reason I created that grid that's just a PDF that you can print out is you can laminate yourself and put it on the wall and just say, for each one, here's our message. And you can modify it so that not every brand is on awareness the same day, and not every brand is on engagement the same day. If you're a restaurant, maybe you want awareness to be Wednesday, and you want you want engagement on a Saturday or something like that, right? Depending on what your cycle is. But I just use this because I've gone on calendar. I've used calendars before too, and I just didn't know where I get lost. Like I'm trying to. And when you get lost in a relationship, it's really when you're trying to develop a relationship, it's really ugly, right? Am I supposed to be wooing you right now, or did you already say you would go out with me, right? They're like, quit trying so hard. I said I'd marry you. Okay, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
If you could go back a couple of slides, when
Sure.
it gets to the quarterly of the awareness engagement preference, I don't quite understand how the one quarter can be geared to one specific theme.
Okay, so here's what I think about this. It's good to, Beth mentioned reach and frequency, just repetition. As like a nonprofit, or even if you're a for-profit, if you spent an entire quarter, it's like kind of your underlying theme of saying, this quarter, we're gonna just focus on awareness. Knowing that each day of the week, we're gonna have opportunities for these small things, right? We're gonna have opportunities for awareness, preference, engagement, and referral retention, but like a quarterly strategy. So your email campaign for that entire quarter might just be all awareness based. Okay. Or as a nonprofit, maybe I'm in a big fundraising mode, but my constituents don't want to hear me fundraising every day throughout the year. But I could say, it's just kind of like pledge drives that they do here, and they do right across the street. During this block of time, we're in fundraising mode, and then people kind of get conditioned to it. And they help. It also helps train other people to tell your story. So if we're on an awareness message, then other people are out there talking about awareness as well.
Okay.
We're doing this with Venture Cafe now. We started we're in a different quarter, but I tell people my first 2 quarters of doing this were the how and the what and the how, and now we're in the why, right? It's just kind of, the why is kind of our preference section right now. Because people know us, but they're like, so why should we care? Well, I'm going to tell you. It's part of my strategy starting April 1st. Other questions or comments? I want to make sure that we wrap up on time. All right, thank you so much for having me. This has been great. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you. Great presentation.
We're sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. This is a recording.